Yeah.
This is all I got.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cinema Brawls. My name is Matt.
I'm Jake.
I'm Daniel.
Today we have another stacked brawl ready for you. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We'll explain why in a sec. The movies that we've selected are all Spider-Man movies. Which Spider-Man movie is the best? We're going to be talking kind of about all the Spider-Man movies, but we're kind of mainly focusing on three. Like, there are only three in the running to win. And those three movies are?
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2.
Amazing Spider-Man 1 with Andrew Garfield.
And the MCU's own Spider-Man Homecoming.
We do want to put an honorable mention out for Into the Spider-Verse and the Spider-Man TV show.
Into the Spider-Verse was awesome.
So good.
It's like, seriously,
Really good.
nothing anybody's ever made before.
Since Spider-Man movies altogether are very similar, we've also changed the categories up a little bit. We'll have the same scoring system. Each movie will take a specific category. Movie with the most categories wins. But I mean, if you think about it, all Spider-Man movies have a similar story. A lot of them have, obviously the same characters.
Right.
They're all in the same genre. So we've mixed up the categories a bit. We're going to talk about Spider-Man specific things. Those categories are as follows. The Peter Parker to Spider-Man ratio, kind of just the main character in and of itself.
Basically, which Spider-Man was the most realistic from the original source material.
Yeah. The villains, which villain had the best motive, looked the best, did the most damage,
Right.
all encompassing. The side characters, that's Aunt May, the love interest, everybody else. The next category is just how it all looks, particularly the suit, but we can talk about other
stylistic aspects of it.
aesthetics,
Yeah.
And last but not least, emotional impact. It is the same category as usual because that is the one we can differentiate between the Spider-Man movies. Let's get right into it. On your mark, get set for a brawl.
So, just to start things out, I'll start things off with the oldest of the three that we're talking about, which is Spider-Man 2. The Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. It came out in 2002, again directed by Sam Raimi. It's a weird sequel in that it's amazing on its own. Such a great contained story, but also is enriched and in turn enriches the previous movie.
Spider-Man Homecoming. It came out in 2017, directed by John Watts, stars Tom Holland, and of course it has Michael Keaton as the Vulture.
Right. And so we've also got the Amazing Spider-Man 1, which stars Andrew Garfield.
Not the president.
It would have been so much cooler if it starred Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Garfield. Anyway.
All right, let's get right into the first category, which is Parker to Spider-Man ratio.
Which Spider-Man did Spider-Man justice?
Which Spider-Man was the Spider-Man?
Now, I have theories on all these.
Have we said Spider-Man enough yet in this video?
Here's what a lot of people say. Tobey Maguire was a really good Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man. And Tom Holland was the right mix of both.
I don't agree because I think that Tobey Maguire was the right mix of both for,
Okay.
my reasons, but
No, I want to hear your reasons, but then I'm going to crush you with them.
So the thing with Spider-Man is that Spider-Man is a loser?
Spider-Man's not a loser, though. Spider-Man is witty and funny. Peter Parker is a loser.
Right, and so one of the things about Spider-Man, and one thing that I think that Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi got right for their Spider-Man is that Peter Parker's a loser. And so when he becomes Spider-Man, he becomes cool and is the cool, witty guy. He's what a loser thinks is cool and witty.
That's fair, actually.
And so like he tries to be witty, and sometimes the jokes land, sometimes they don't. It's kind of half and half, and I think that that's on purpose. And I think that it's to show that, Spider-Man's kind of a goober. He's kind of a loser, and I think that Andrew Garfield, though he can be a good actor, just wasn't necessarily the right fit because he was too cool to be Peter Parker, and so then when he became Spider-Man, he was just kind of a jerk.
I can see that. Andrew Garfield did sometimes come across as a jerk.
Oh, stop it! Dude, that isn't funny. It is kind of funny, help!
This is why I think Tom Holland was the good mix of both, because he is still a loser, but he's also hilarious. But when he's Peter Parker, no one's paying attention. He makes a joke, and we all think it's funny, but everyone else around him in the world is like, who said that? But then when it's Spider-Man, suddenly everybody wants to pay attention now. He just has the same humor, it's just more people kind of, it bounces off.
They pay attention.
I agree with that. I don't agree with you. I think Tobey Maguire made a crappy Spider-Man.
I agree with him. I get the point.
I get the point, but I don't think that's how it was. I don't think Peter Parker was a goober or a loser. I think people saw him like that because that's how he acted, but once he puts on the mask, he has confidence. He can just be himself freely because nobody knows who he is, and that's when we get Spider-Man. Peter Parker isn't Spider-Man. Spider-Man is Peter Parker, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yes.
We'll see. But with in context of Tobey Maguire, it makes sense to still take him a minute to realize that, if I put on the mask,
which
I can say what I want.
I get, but I hated the humor in those movies. I hated Tobey Maguire because he's just so, oh my gosh, cringy.
He's got very unique facial acting. He's got this weird rubber face, and that's one of the things that's awesome is he cries. He has emotions. He doesn't totally know how to
But
act.
he's not funny, and that's what I expect from Spider-Man.
So let's decide which of the three movies should deserve this category. And if we're judging based on how true it is to the comics, I think Tobey Maguire should win. I love Tom Holland. I like watching the movie a little better. But for this specific category, I think it should go to Spider-Man 2.
I disagree. I don't think he was like the comic book Spider-Man at all. I think he was too over the top on one degree, and I didn't laugh at all. And I laughed at the Spider-Man comics.
I like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man because, I feel like he's a better character as Spider-Man. I think that he's a better Peter, better Spider-Man, better character for the world that he's in.
You're voting that one?
Yeah.
I'm voting Tom Holland.
Let's move on to villains. This one should be a little more even across the board. Again, so we're talking about specifically the Vulture, Lizard, and Doc Ock.
I just hated the Lizard, man.
I actually liked the Lizard.
I liked the Lizard.
He looked cool. They had some cool fights.
He looked cool. His plan was stupid. He was a stupid
It's a superhero villain,
Man, at least, I like... One of the reasons why I like Doc Ock is because he, was this super genius guy who was like, all right, guys, you know what? I'm going to show you about my infinite power source, but I have to use these cool tentacle things that jack into my brain to show you about this other thing. I'm just science across the board. It's awesome.
Yeah.
If
we're talking pure motive, the Lizard does kind of fall a little bit. Because the Vulture, in the comics, he's a goofball.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's his job kind of gets outsourced to these other people. And it's you know what? No, I'm going to take what I deserve. I'm going to provide for my family. He had a better motive.
The Vulture.
Yeah, I think
the Vulture
good.
Was an amazing villain. And Michael Keaton did a bone-chilling job.
He was
He's fantastic.
He definitely came across as evil.
I mean, you all know which lines I'm talking about when I say he delivered some lines.
Oh,
yeah.
You walk through those doors, you forget any of this happened. And don't you ever interfere with my business again.
I think he was the one that was actually evil. It started out with good intentions, but then he just kind of like, you know what? No, I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
Lizard and Doc Ock started as good guys trying to do scientific breakthroughs and then got corrupted, you know?
You know, a lot of Spider-Man villains actually kind of follow that route where they start out as good people, end up going bad because of something, but at the end, they're still kind of good guys.
Green Goblin is a good example of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Doc Ock's another great example. I think the Vulture can be a good example. I think that,
the Vulture didn't turn Spider-Man in at the end.
yeah.
And that because he saved his daughter. He wasn't like totally evil.
Yeah. And like that's one of the things that I love about Spider-Man villains in particular, especially the ones that make it into the movies, is because they're always that reflection of Spider-Man, of what Spider-Man could have been. Spider-Man had the superhero serum thing that, Green Goblin had basically, and got to be turned into a superhero, but he went the other direction and became a good guy and started helping people because of the tragedies that he had, versus like the Green Goblin or Doc Ock, that because of the tragedies they had, they became selfish and self-centered and had to, or at least tried to make things worse for other people, so like just so that they could feel their pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which Spider-Man like helps people so they don't have to feel his pain.
Right. Which is why Spider-Man as a whole is an amazing concept.
Oh yeah, like we love Spider-Man.
He is easily one of my favorites.
And so now we gotta figure out which one of the villains is the best or worst, if you will.
Okay, I think Lizard looked the best.
Lizard
Vulture
did
look
the best.
good, but they kind of had to go like the mechanical wings route because otherwise it would be weird. Same with the video game. Quick shout out to that too. They kind of had to retcon Vulture's look to be modern with the mechanical wings. I don't like how Doc Ock looks. He looks weird. I know he's supposed to. I just think he looks weird.
I mean, he looks better than he does in the comics.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think they did a good
He's
job.
got Alfred Molina.
Hey, we're talking villains. Here's how I think it goes. I think Doc Ock is a close second after Vulture because I liked Michael Keaton's performance more. I liked who Michael Keaton's character was. And I like, his motives, his sense of responsibility towards his family and stuff like that. Just everything. Doc Ock seemed a little less inclined to have my vote just because you can't feel for the guy as much. But you do.
So if we had to vote,
I vote Vulture.
I also vote Vulture.
Doc Ock, but
Yeah, well, majority. Let's move on to the side characters then.
I really want to vote for the side characters in Amazing Spider-Man.
Really?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know. I liked Gwen Stacy more than I liked Mary Jane.
Gwen Stacy was the better love interest, but Amazing Spider-Man had the worst Aunt May.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of tough
I
to...
just don't really like that actress.
Remember the Aunt May from Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. They've gotten progressively younger as they make
Right.
Spider-Man movies.
If we're going like that, here's where I stand. Tobey Maguire, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, had the best Aunt May.
Definitely.
Because, I can't remember the Amazing Spider-Man Aunt May, and the one from Tom Holland's was fun and fit the overall feeling. What do you call that?
The atmosphere.
The
There
atmosphere
we go.
of the movie.
Good word choice.
But Aunt May definitely fit the bill most in the Raimi's movies. I didn't like Mary Jane. I didn't like Liz. That's why I think Gwen Stacy was the best love interest. But then, that's one for each. Ned was the best friend.
Because
Yes,
there actually was a best friend.
there was a best friend. I
guess technically Harry was.
liked
but
Harry.
was a douche.
In Spider-Man 2, it's so weird because he's like, of course, this toxic, awful friend. Another dark side to what Peter Parker could have been. His father died, so he's just out for revenge, versus Peter, who's his surrogate father died, and so he's out to stop that from happening to anyone else.
Right. I don't know.
It's tough because it's like
Ned's funny, and he's
Ned's
a really
great.
good friend.
He's a good friend,
right.
but his character
If
is
I was
terribly
Spider-Man,
deep.
I would want a Ned.
I know.
But he's not terribly deep, you know?
Yeah.
Harry at least was deep. He had some layers. to
Yeah,
him,
I just
but-
hated them.
That's
I
fair.
like Kristen Dunst. I do. I hate her in that movie. Point is, I'm voting Amazing Spider-Man on this one because love interest is most important, and I liked Gwen Stacy a lot, and also the relationship that Peter had with her father as well.
Interesting.
Okay, but let me put in this one side character that's just gonna blow you all out of the water. You know his name. J.
Oh.
Jonah Jameson.
Freak, man.
Okay, there's never been a more perfect casting than J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movie.
I agree, but that doesn't hold enough water on
It
side
holds
characters.
so
It
much.
helps a lot.
It was a really good casting.
It was so good.
I really want J. Jonah
Oh,
Jameson
man.
to be in like the MCU. Please
But
make that happen.
they'll just never have another one that's just quite as good as him.
Yeah.
Like, just
Man.
because he, like, J. Jonah Jameson is one of those characters that's just, like, so perfect in that you really know nothing about him. He's only been a jerk to Peter, but then the one moment that the Green Goblin comes out of nowhere and is just like, you know, I'm gonna kill you if you don't tell me where Spider-Man is, or the photographer that takes the pictures of Spider-Man, and he's just like, nope, never heard of him. Like, he sends his pictures in the mail. I don't know who he is, kind of a thing.
It was a good
Like,
moment.
he
Like,
puts his life on the line, and it's like, is this guy who we only thought of as a jerk really the kind of guy that would put his life on the line for any of his employees? Does he like Peter, but he's just mean to him, or like what?
is he trying to like motivate him or something?
Yeah, like he's just so good.
In my opinion, I thought he was doing that because he didn't want to be bullied by some random crap supervillain, so he just took matters in his own hands, like, screw you.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if he's the kind of guy that just like has the cojones to stand up to this flying goblin guy about to punch him in the face, yeah, J. Jonah Jameson has my vote.
I mean,
You
he
know-
definitely is. We all know he is, but I mean, he's going to be in any Spider-Man movie that we watch if he ever shows up.
Yeah. See, that's what I was gonna vote for Homecoming for side characters because he had Ned, he had the second best Aunt May,
God.
but
You got the best
then-
Aunt May, you got the best J.
But
Jonah
nobody cares
Jameson.
about those. We care about the love interest, and Gwen Stacy was the best.
Yeah, but MJ was a close
But that's
second,
one to
so
two.
I disagree. MJ sucked.
you liked her better than Liz?
No.
Okay, so yeah, that's
I wouldn't, you said close second.
okay, fine, whatever.
She is second.
I mean, if we have to have a second, she was second. Congrats.
I'm voting for Spider-Man 2 for side characters.
I think
Second
Harry's
best
the
love
better love interest.
Huh?
I think Harry's the better love interest.
What are you voting for?
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, alright. So that's 2 for that one. Let's move on to the next category, which is the aesthetics of the whole thing, particularly the suit. We'll mention other things, but this is mostly about how just the suit looks.
This is a point that I will give to Amazing Spider-Man. I think that the suit looks really good on Andrew Garfield.
Oh, yeah.
They had like the good mix of CG and practical suits and stuff like that.
I didn't like the reflective eyes, though.
Not as much.
I like the way a lot of the villains looked.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and that I kind of like on one level, but I kind of don't on another, is that you can see that there are different suits that they use for Tobey Maguire. Like, there are different suits depending on what he's doing. If he's more being acrobatic or swinging or things like that, then it's more of a streamlined suit. If he's supposed to be striking like a superhero pose, or if he's talking to MJ, or if he's fighting, they actually have what they call the muscle suit, where they like padded out the arms and stuff like that, so he looks bigger. And sometimes there's a very noticeable difference from scene to scene, depending on what's going on. But I did like how it was all a practical suit, pretty much.
That is cool. That is
But I kind of like the aesthetics of Amazing Spider-Man 2. They had a really nice color grade. Tom Holland Spider-Man, it's fine.
See, I really like the Tom Holland suit, and here's why. In comics, you can draw the characters to do whatever you want. If they're wearing a mask, you can make the mask like elongate if they're surprised, or angle if they're angry, you know. In real life, masks don't work that way. So in the in the Tobey Maguire one, we mentioned like when he puts on the mask, he has more confidence, can have more emotion. But the biggest parts where he has emotion is when the mask is off, actually. Because Tobey Maguire has to show his face. He has to emote. That's an actor thing, and it makes sense. But see, it makes sense that Tony Stark designs Tom Holland's suit, because then the eyes can move. Mm-hmm. And you can write it off as, oh, well, it's mechanical. And then you can have the same kind of emotions with the mask on. And he still takes the mask off during other emotional parts. But I really like how they use that small detail in Homecoming to be like the comics. I like the smaller spider too. That's a tiny thing.
I personally didn't totally love the mechanical suit just because it looked too CGI.
Yeah.
It was like it's obviously CGI, and that's not necessarily a problem. And some CGI suits can look fine, like the Iron Man suit and stuff can look good. I just like the practical aesthetics of Spider-Man 2 better.
I did not.
You can't say much during this category. Go for it.
I just think that the other suit looks cheap and like waxy, and granted, the Tobey Maguire ones are a lot earlier, and so they didn't have the same practical effects. But, I mean, that's what we're talking about. And the Marvel's Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man, did a really good job. And I like the way it looks a lot. I like that the eyes move, and I like the suit, because it's dope.
It is a pretty dope suit.
It has a lot more features, which I think, Spider-Man should have included, because he's Spider-Man and he builds those features, even though Tony Stark built them.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, he does make his own modifications to it. He still brings out his take in it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to vote for Homecoming for how the suit looks.
Also.
I mean, yeah, okay.
All right, great.
I'm fine with Homecoming.
Great. So that means Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming are currently tied. So it comes down to our last category, emotional impact. Which, if we're talking about, I think we should talk about a specific moment from each. Spider-Man 2, that was the one with the train, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Spider-Man 2 has the train. Spider-Man Homecoming has when the building collapses on him. And Amazing Spider-Man has Gwen Stacy.
All right. If I may start off on this one, please. Here's my thing. I know I can get hate for this, but I really, really, really hate the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans.
If it hasn't been stated enough.
I hate the characters.
They're so good.
I hate how cheesy it is. I hate how cringy the whole thing is. I don't like the looks of it. And I think a lot of that...
You mean you don't like Tobey Maguire doing this?
Yeah. See, it's crap like that. Specifically during like important moments that make the emotional impact just go way soft for me. And that's why I didn't feel anything during those movies. When he made out with MJ for the first time upside down, or when he saved the people on the train, those stupid faces just ruin it for me.
See,
and the fact that I never cared about the characters, it's made me hate every actor in those movies. Just ruins any emotional impact that could have been there for me. And that's why I elect Tom Holland's movies for the best emotional impact.
See, here's the thing. Yes, Tobey Maguire's face is weird. But I feel like the emotion from that scene doesn't come from him. It comes from the people on the train.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, hey, this kid saved us and almost died in the process, and we're carrying him through. It was like a group effort. However, I am also voting for Tom Holland because it had a personal growth moment. It was really sad because he almost gave up and just died there. And he's like, you know what?
He really did.
He's like, you know what? No, I'm going to do this. And he lifts an entire building off of it.
That was actually super sad.
Yeah, and may I add, that entire sequence was like ripped straight from the comics. Building, toppling, same kind of emotional, like, I can do this. It was great.
there's not only the train scene. Yes, the train scene, his face is weird, but he's stopping a moving, speeding train.
Tom Holland put together a boat that was split in half.
Oh, that was good.
No, he didn't. He was trying to and failing until Tony Stark came out and was like, it's too hard for you, kid. Let me help.
Close.
Oh, yeah. Like, how close?
Like, 98% close. That was the...
Like, was it closing up? No, everything was about to break, including Tom Holland.
Which is why it was emotional.
But then the emotion's gone because Tom Holland didn't actually do it versus Tobey Maguire that actually did it.
Well, see, but then he suffers for it. He's like, you know what? I didn't do it. And then he kind of mopes around, he gets the suit taken away. But then, that's when the building crashes on him. And he doesn't have this tech suit. He's like, I can't get out of this. Because if I couldn't fix the boat with this other suit, there's no way I can get out of this with the hoodie, you know?
The boat was the build-up.
But then he does do it.
The boat was the build-up, and I'll give it that. But in Spider-Man 2, you have the train. You have the ending when Doc Ock realizes that he has been a monster and uses his body and his life to finally save other people and destroy his creations. That was sad. Like, there's just so much more emotion in Spider-Man 2.
There wasn't, though, because...
There's a lot more opportunity.
Because you're just dead inside and you don't know, man.
No, there wasn't. It was all weak, and...
There's more opportunity for emotion, but they don't all necessarily hit the same points as the train. Sorry, did I?
Yes. Tom Holland. Tom Holland's Peter Parker was brought down to our level, and we were able to view things through his eyes. A kid, 15-year-old kid, who got threatened by his mentor and, basically discredited. He got threatened by his prom date's dad. Not just him, but his whole family.
Which I can speak from personal experience is terrifying.
I want to hear that story later. And then he got crushed under a building, which I'm sure we can all relate would be very hard for us.
It would be hard to be crushed under a building. You're right.
But, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was like...
It comes down
you're
to...
fighting a super genius who's, taking a son down into the ocean with him. That's cool.
It comes down to Tom Holland's big emotional moment being centered around him and his growth, or Tobey Maguire's emotional moments being everybody else around him growing because of him.
I vote Tom Holland.
Spider-Man?
You can't just say Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3. Everyone knows what I'm going to vote for.
I gotta give it to Homecoming as well.
But we know that Tom Holland did a really good job. Those movies were really good. And it, by a niche... Nick? By an inch, that's the word I'm looking for, wins!
Tobey Maguire's and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was very good for the time, but
They're my favorite.
they are great.
They're my least favorite.
But I think Homecoming was what Marvel wanted Spider-Man to be from the beginning, and I think they have great plans for future movies, and Spider-Man is great.
Spider-Man's great.
Cheers. Not you.
Thanks for joining us with our Stack Brawl for Spider-Man movies. Comment below which one you think is best and why. Don't forget, and please comment and tweet us at @CinemaBrawls for other future Stacked Brawls ideas.